All right. Hello. Let's get this started up. So, Aditya, if you could cue down the music, if you can hear me, so I would know. Um, yeah, start reducing the music there, and then we'll get started with this. All right, then. Let's go. Three, two, one, and we're live. Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. My name is Rishi Pathak. I'm the founder of Code the Universe, and we hope you enjoy today's session. So, if everyone can see my screen, if there's anyone who's having any problems right now with seeing my screen or anything like that, go ahead and say something right now, and like pi questions or something, or pi lecture questions. Go ahead and shout out that hey, I can't see your screen, or I'm having some troubles or something, so we can kind of know. But other than that, if you're just joining us, hello again, welcome, and let's let's get started. So first things first, again, just let me give a little description about Code the Universe and who we are, kind of what we do. So again, this is an organization, soon to be nonprofit, and our goal is basically to teach people the fundamentals of programming. So regardless of who you are, what background you come from, what industry you're working in, the goal is basically to teach you how to program. And it doesn't matter, again, your background. Like that's one thing I want to accentuate, that these classes are all built for someone who has no prior experience with programming, or has never actually ever even seen the inside of a computer, anything like that. No matter where you're from, these lectures should make sense to you. The goal is that you're able to learn something out of this. You're able to learn how to program. So let's kind of dive right in and start asking then, what is programming? Because you might see in the movies this very weird description of programming where people are hacking into the FBI, so on and so forth, doing some whiz things at the terminal, pseudoscience, all that. But I want to clarify a little bit about what programming truly is, so that you kind of have an idea of what you're kind of getting into. So let's see. Okay, yeah, people worrying about Visual Studio Code also, don't worry about that. I mean, we'll do everything in the browser, so you have nothing to worry about. Just sit back and relax, and just kind of enjoy the lecture. So let's get started with a little bit about what programming is. Um, so again, you might have seen some like modern descriptions of programming, which are very, very sci-fi, and make things look a lot more complex than they actually are. Programming is essentially just, instead of you using, like, if you say you have like a phone or like a computer or something like that, instead of just being the user who uses the phone or like uses an app to do something, programming is actually being able to go into the phone and tell the phone what to do. So, for example, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the popular game Angry Birds, where you launch birds and hit stuff. So basically, a user basically pulls a bird back and lets it go. The programmer is the one who goes into the phone basically and codes the algorithm, so that, to say, like, if the user pulls it back a distance of 5 inches or something like that, then the bird's gonna fly off crazy. Versus if he pulls it back barely any, then the bird isn't gonna launch very far. So that's what a programmer sort of does. A programmer basically works with the computer to tell the computer what to do given a set of input. And this pretty simple idea has actually had many powerful like uses. For example, if we have a car or something, I mean, even when you get over to like self-driving cars and stuff like that, you're basically just taking inputs and you're returning an output. If you see a person, for example, on the road, stop the car, stuff like that. And this keeps getting more and more complex, obviously. But at the core, it's just this idea of being able to take a set of inputs and being able to create some sort of output, like a function almost. Now, because of the presence of some math in programming, people often tend to associate programming with being very like good at math. I'm not exactly sure why this misconception exists, but I would guess it's because a lot of the foundations of computer science are done in mathematics. However, that's not to say that if you program, you need to know if you know a programming language, you need to be some sort of math expert. I think that's a pretty big misconception out there that people think that to even get into programming, you need to be some sort of math whiz, and that's not true. Rather, I would say programming is something that anyone could learn if they just put some time into it. It's more like learning a language because if you want to get into computer science, yeah, you probably need some math down the road, but just getting into programming and telling the computer what to do, that's not going to require you to know some sort of crazy math. You can do a lot just by the math knowledge you have. There's no need to learn like calculus or whatever if you just want to get into programming. Now that is to be noted that maybe if you want to do something like I don't know, you want to get into algorithms or something more complex, maybe you might argue that hey, there's a need to understand some math. But for just basic purposes, you don't need to worry about mathematics because that was always a big worry of mine before I got into programming, and it's not that big of a deal. So I just wanted to clarify that for everyone. Now, the language that we're learning today, it's called Python. I'm sure everyone in the class knows what that is or has some idea what Python is, but just in case you don't, let me clarify. So Python was this language invented quite some time ago by a mathematician. It was built to be easy to use, easy to read. So you might have actually heard that Python is way easier to learn than stuff like Java, and that's actually true. Python is a language that's built to be as natural to human language as possible because there's a lot of the things that are in Java aren't in Python, and you understand what I mean as we start getting into things. But it's a lot more intuitive than other languages out there. So that's why we want to teach Python first. There's so much popularity for Python because of the fact that it's so easy to use and easy to interface with. Anyone can kind of understand it. So let's get started then. So you're probably wondering, how do I code? Like, how do I open up? How do I start coding? So we're gonna go ahead and look at that for a little bit. So first of all, I want everyone to navigate to this website if you can. I actually have it opened up on my computer. It's called Repple.it. That's the website we're going to be doing all of our programming stuff on, all of our coding projects and everything. So if everyone could go ahead and open this website, I would really appreciate it. I think Aditya has actually linked it down in the let's see, in the lecture question stuff too, so you can follow along with that. But just go to this website right here, repple.it, like this, and go ahead and click enter. And give it a second and it'll load up. And so I've actually already created an account, but just for the purposes of going through, kind of going to show you how to go about doing that. Again, you don't have to create an account, but I highly recommend you do so that you can store, like you can save your programs and stuff. So I think that would be pretty beneficial. So I'm just going to walk you through real quick how to create an account and get started with this. So I'm just going to log out. And again, we're using Repple.it instead of using some sort of instead of using some sort of program on the computer, just in case some people are logging in from like a Google, like Chromebook or something like that. The goal for these lectures, again, is to be as accessible as possible, and we feel that Replit allows us to do that. So again, we're at this homepage, Repple.it. We're going to go ahead and click sign up, so because you probably don't have an account, so we're going to click sign up right here. And give it a second. All right, and then right here you can go ahead and put in like your username, and you can go ahead and put in your email and stuff. So go ahead and put in your email, and then go ahead and put a password in right here, and then just go ahead and click sign up. And I think it should allow you to use everything after that. So once you do that, go ahead and just comment something down in lecture questions. Just say yes or something like that I was able to do it. If you have any trouble, then go ahead and shout out in lecture questions if you're having any trouble signing up. But if you're all good, then just sit tight. I'll just give it like give you about a minute or two to get this stuff set up. But yeah, once you're ready, yeah, there we go. Once you're ready, then just react to that. Just click the thumbs up. So once you're ready, you should be at a page like this right here. You should be able to open up something like this. So once you create an account, and I'm going to log in with mine to walk you through how to do that. So you're going to log in like this, click the login button, And let's give it a second. Okay, and so once you're in right here, what you're gonna want to do, it might ask you actually like create a new REPL, but in case it doesn't, go ahead and click this right here, new REPL right here, and go ahead and click that. And we want to do Python obviously because this is a Python course, so just click Python. And if it doesn't pop up, just type it in. And this right here, name it something. Name it something that you might want to like, I don't know, you might want to use sometime later. That's just going to be like the name of like your REPL. So you might just name it like lecture 1 instruction, something like that. I don't know. Lecture, you can just do lecture 1. I already have a file called lecture 1, so I don't want to name that again. So I'm just going to do test lecture 1 or something like that. So you can name this whatever you want. And then go ahead and click create REPL. This is fine, just don't click any of this. Just click create REPL and your REPL should be created and it should take you there. So nice, now you are in test lecture 1 or whatever your thing is. So you can just actually just sit here and you can just, I don't know, try something out if you want. You can always just, if you want, you can click examples and you can bring in an example or something just to test something out. So you click run just to make sure that everything is working, and hello world. So everything is working for us. And then go ahead and delete everything off your thing. Okay, so I'm going to assume that everyone is good with this, and if you're having any problems, then just let one of us know in lecture questions. That'd be much appreciated. Don't just sit there because that's not very good. The whole point of this is so that you can ask questions and you can, if you have trouble, you can get answers to that. So go ahead and ask questions throughout the lecture. Alright, now, so we're at Replit with this lecture 1, we're right here, and now we're going to finally get started with Python. I'm probably pretty excited for this. I remember I was when I first started learning Python, so let's begin our journey. Okay, let's start with section 1, just getting started, just some basic stuff. I'll actually be, so we've actually typed up some notes here, and I'll actually be copying them right in, so if you're wondering how I'm typing all this so fast, we've actually typed up these notes already, so I'll just be copying them in. I'm not that fast at typing. So alright, let's get started with this. Okay, we're just going to delete this, and we're going to go ahead and put it right here. So section 1, getting started. Okay, awesome. Let's get started with this first bit of stuff right here. Let's see. Okay, so first things first with Python. How do we actually interface with the console? What do we do here? How do we get things to work, right? How do we get things to show up? How do we make this exciting and cool? So the first step to doing that, the first order of business to doing that is actually the print statement. And what is the print statement, you might be asking? Well, the print statement simply allows you to print something out to this. So this is called the console right here, console, console right here. And this over here is where you type your code. It's called an IDE, but in similar terms, like in simpler terms, you can just think, hey, I'm going to type my code over here. And this is where I'm going to see it pop up. So this is the pop-up stuff right here, and this is where you kind of write your code, like here, right? Okay, and we're just going to delete all that. Okay, here we go. So let's get started again. Okay, so let's get started with the print statement first. Print, let's try something. Print hello world. Now, you might have seen this if you're familiar with other programming languages. Hello world is the customary thing to always start out with. So you have this print hello world, and go ahead and click run. And let's see what happens for a sec. So everyone look over here and you'll be able to see that you were able to pop out hello world into the console. So that was able to print. So that's pretty cool. You're able to print stuff out with hello world. With print, you're able to access the console and you're able to create stuff over here. So let's experiment around with this print some more. Let's try something else. Let's try printing print hello comma world. Let's do that, and let's see what happens. Okay, same thing happened. So you can immediately start guessing. Okay, there's something cool going on here. If we put the comma right here, it automatically puts a space between our words, between the two words that we want to print out. So hello and world. And so it kind of looks the same as it did above. We can actually try this out a step further. We might be able to try like, hey, let's try to print out someone's name. Let's do Bill Gates. Let's see if that works. And again, you'll also be able to see a space over there. So let's try it again, and voila, here's just a little space right here. So print, what we've established so far is that print, not only can it print entire like one word things like this, but it can also print separate words like this. So that's pretty powerful already. Now you already have a way to interface with the console and print things out. So let's see how far we can extend this. Maybe we can change. Maybe you're thinking, hey, maybe I want to change how the stuff is separated. Maybe I want Bill, comma Gates, right? Maybe I don't want this to show up as an entire like first like name like this. So how would you work with that? Well, that's actually a pretty good question. So let's see. Let's put this down here. Print Bill Gates, and maybe you want to put the actual comma between their names so that it shows up with a comma. And how would you do that? Well, through the separator command. You can actually see it pop up right here, sep, and that's actually what we're going to do. We're just going to do sep, and we're going to put a comma between their name like this. We're just going to do something like this. And so let's try running that. And hey, pretty cool. We get Bill, comma Gates, and maybe we want a slight space there, and so then we run it again, Bill, comma Gates. So one thing to note before going further, note how everything in this program is being run line by line. So I'll explain what this is in a second. I'll explain what these things are in a little bit, but just ignore those for now. I mean, just pretend those are notes to you for now. So note how it's printing hello world first with this exclamation mark, then this thing without the exclamation mark, note that. Then it's printing Bill Gates, and then it's print Bill Gates with this comma between. So I want you to realize that everything in Python is run line by line. This computer literally follows line by line. So it goes to line 1. Okay, line 1 is blank. It doesn't do anything. Line 2, again, I told you that the computer just ignores this. So, and just ignore it for now. So this won't do anything. Print, okay, I found a function right here. Print, I'm going to print hello world out to the console. Second thing, okay, I'm going to print hello, then I'm going to put world after it. So on and so forth. So that's a pretty powerful thing there, that this follows line by line. Many people get confused when they first see this and wonder, oh, is it going like randomly or something? But no, it's just going from 1 down to 8. So if you ever get confused, just remember that. You always start at the top and go to the bottom. So this function here, again, is called the print function, and it allows you to print stuff to the command line right here. All right, that's cool. So let's move on, and let's go ahead and start the next section, because I think that section's fairly solidified. And if there's any questions, just again, feel free to ask. All right, next section. Section 2, operations. So let's talk a little bit more. Obviously, printing stuff out to the terminal is cool and all, but it's not inherently useful, right? We can print a bunch of names and stuff out here. We can print a bunch of words out here. Heck, we could even print out like an entire book over here. But there's not too much use of that. Obviously, we want to be able to do more than just print out names and like words. So what's the next step? Intuitively, we would think, okay, let's try printing some stuff out with numbers, you know? Like, why not? So let's actually try it out. Let's start some basic operations with integers. For anyone who doesn't know what an integer is, by the way, it's just a number like this, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then all 0, -1, so on. You know, you get what I'm saying. Just basic numbers, like without the decimal points. That's how you can think of integers. So how do we print out integers, right? How do we print out integers? It's actually pretty intuitive. There's nothing too special about this. Just try print. Let's type again. Remember, print something out to the console, and type print 3. Okay, let's see what we get with that. Let's run this, and let's see what we get. Let's give it a second, and let's try it again. Oh, hey, cool, 3 right here. We got 3 to pop up here. That's pretty neat, actually. We're able to print out a number. Cool. Okay, let's see how far we can take this. Maybe we can do something more with 3. Maybe I just don't want 1, 3. I want to add another 3 to this. So how could I do that? I could do print 3 plus 3. Let's see what we get with that. Let's see. And 6. Wow, this is some rocket science over here, guys. We got 6. Nice, pretty cool. So we're able to print something out using the plus. Okay, cool. So let's take this out further. Okay, hold up a sec. Looks like some people are having issues with connecting to the chat or connecting the stream. So are people able to see the stream? Are people still able to see the stream? I just want to make sure. I think so. Some people are having issues connecting to the stream. I'm going to assume that there's probably some more. So yeah, go ahead and follow the help that those guys are showing there. If there's anyone having a problem with the stream, go ahead and type it in right now so we can kind of fix this as a team before moving on. Okay, looks like they're helping you guys out over there. So I'll just continue with this. Sorry about that. Okay, let's continue. So we have print statements again. So you can print out 3 plus 3. Let's extend this concept further. Let's actually go ahead and do all the operations. So here are the classic like number operations that you can do. Okay, so let's check this out. This reads line by line. So we have print 3 plus 3 would be 6, right? Let's actually run this, and let's see. So we have print 3 plus 3, that's popping out as 6. Print 3 minus 3, that's displaying 0. Print 3 times 3, displaying 9. Print 3, and this right here is to the power again, so 3 to the power 3, which means like 3 raised to the power 3, 3 exponent 3, which gives you 27, and 3 divided by 3, which gives you 1.0. So that covers all of basic arithmetic. And now we take one last look at this. Note that every time this print is being evaluated, it's not just printing out 3 minus 3. So it's when we do print 3 plus 3 like this, we're not getting an output that's like this. We're not getting this. I want everyone to note that. We're not getting 3 plus 3. We are getting the answer to this. So 3 plus 3 are 6. I want everyone to note that. So note how everything inside this print is evaluated before actually being displayed to the console. That's pretty important. So we're gonna paste that all back right here. So note how 3 minus 3 gets evaluated to 0 and then is printed out to the console. 3 times 3 is evaluated before it's printed out. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then this thing right here, note how this is also evaluated. You can read this as 3 to the power 3. That's an exponent, and the solution that the Python people came up with for exponents was this. So if you want to get this thing to show up on your computer, just do Shift and type 8, and that's the little multiplication key, and type it one more time. That's the exponent. So that means 3 to the power 3, which is 27. 3 divided by 3, which is 1. And that's pretty much it. That's basic arithmetic with integers in Python. But we can extend this even further. What if we want to do basic math, not with integers, but decimal values? You know, there's a whole bunch of numbers that you can use. So let's talk a little bit about that. So let's go into that. Okay, print, and what other numbers are there? Decimal values, right? So let's go ahead and try that. Let's try printing something like that. Let's do print 3.2 plus 3.3. Will this be able to work? Let's test it. Let's click run. Nice, 6.5. So it does work actually. You're able to print other decimal values out. And you can actually think about it and you can be like, okay, there's probably the same like minus and everything. And that all is probably the same. And you'd be right. Minus, plus, everything is the same. And then you can actually print something out. Okay, yeah, so note this by the way. This is Python trying to compute the answer to 10.9 minus 3.3. Sometimes Python actually throws these types of things out because computers compute math problems differently than us, like humans. So sometimes you might get this type of stuff. Just kind of ignore it. It's not a big deal. Okay, let's try printing another thing. Let's try printing another computation. Let's try print 10.3 times 3.3. So let's see what we get with that. And click run. And let's see the power of math. Nice, 33.99. So that worked pretty well. Okay, let's keep continuing then. So I want to bring your attention to one thing though, and this is the first of many sort of problems that we're going to encounter in programming generally. So let's try printing something. Let's try division. Let's try this. Let's try print 7 divided by 3, and if you run that, you'll be able to see that the answer comes out to be 2.3 repeating. But now I want you to try printing this out. Try print 7 divide twice, division sign twice, by 3. Let's see what you get. Maybe you'll get the same answer. No. So check this out. Right here. These two lines, 23 and 24. Notice how doing print 7 by 3, 7 divided by 3 gave us this huge repeating decimal answer, while doing print 7 divide by 3 gives us this, 2. So you might be wondering what is going on here. The answer is actually, if you look at this and think about it, what's happening is that all this decimal stuff is just being dropped off. It's just being cut right off. And so what is actually happening is this computer is going through and saying, okay, how many times does 3 go into 7? You say, okay, 2 times. And then it's just outputting 2. It's not bringing in the decimal part. And this can actually be pretty useful sometimes. Say you're trying to divide something like, say you're trying to divide up a set of like balls, and you have some kids there who want to play with these, and you're trying to divide up a set of balls. You can't like cut a ball in half, for example. So this actually might be pretty useful in some cases where you don't want this decimal stuff to show up. So that is pretty useful, and you can actually just mark it down here. We call this forcing integer division or integer truncation, whatever you want to call it. Okay, now let's get to one other thing, remainders. So remainders are actually pretty useful in computer science, and let's go through that. So if we want to find the remainder of a number, go ahead and put this. Do print 10 mod 3. So this percent sign right here, you actually read that as a mod. So go ahead and do 10 percent sign 3. So go ahead and type that in your computer and then click run. And you should see it pop up at the very bottom, 1. And so you might be thinking, why is it showing out 1? What does this percent sign mean? So as you may have been taught in other, like in math classes or whatever, the percent sign here does not reflect the same thing that percent sign in like math does. It does not reflect out of 100 or something. The percent sign right here in computer science, and this is virtually similar throughout all programming languages, it just means modulus. It is called modulus. That's just a fancy word, but most it's hard to remember fancy words like that. So the way I think about it is it's just saying remainder. So it's just calculating the remainder when 10 is divided by 3. That's what this means. Just it's asking, hey, what is the remainder, right? And so you do 10 remainder by 3. And so if you're trying to calculate the remainder there, you divide it out. You'd say, okay, 3 times 3 equals 9. 1 is left, and so 1 is the remainder. So that's why 1 pops out there. So that's the reason for that. So that is just, so this is pretty useful in computer science actually, having this, this value for remainders. And you'll see in the future how we use this, but don't be too confused by the notation. It just stands for remainder. And we can just test this out one more time just to make sure that we're right. Let's do 22 mod, let's see, percent sign 7, let's see, or 6, let's do 6, 22 mod 6, let's test it out, let's see what we get. And if we run it, you'll see we get 4, so 6 times 3 is 18, and then 22 minus 18 is 4, there's 4 left over. So this is pretty useful to find out remainder. Okay, let's keep going. So let's do, so one more thing about this class, how it's set up. So every time we show you guys something like some sort of code, we want you to be able to practice this, because just watching me code or just watching an instructor code is not going to teach you, it's not going to teach you everything about computer science, because we've already had a lot of practice with programming and a lot of practice with coding. So if you want to get better at programming, you're going to need to have some practice. So within the lecture, we wanted to give you a way to do guided practice so that if you had any questions, you could always ask us. So that's why we have these things called tasks. And this first task that we're going to do, it's a pretty simple task. We're just going to try to use the distance formula. And for people who are not familiar with the distance formula, that is okay. I'll explain what it is, but we're going to go through and do this problem. Okay. So so say you're given 2 points right here, 5, 3 and 4, 5. The goal is to find the distance between these 2 points. Now, if anyone has any trouble with understanding the math behind that, basically what we're doing is we're putting 2 points on like a coordinate grid, and we're basically finding the distance between those. If you have any further questions on that, go ahead and you can always say something, just shout it out or something like that. Like, hey, I don't understand how to interface with like points, but I mean, I think most people do, but if you don't worry about it, just ask a question. But basically what we're gonna do is, in order to find these 2 points, we're gonna take the difference between this 5 right here and this 4, and then we're gonna square it, and then we're gonna add it to 3 minus 5, also squared. It'll make sense in a sec. So go ahead and find so the first task again is to find the distance between these 2 points. And the way you're going to be doing that is the goal is to subtract 5. So I'm just going to write it out like what you're going to like try to, I can't like fully write it out because then that'll kind of give you the answer. But the goal is, again, you want to do 5 minus 4, square it, then you want to do 3 minus 5, square that, and you should get some value. And that we'll just call your distance value. That we'll just call your distance value, and then you're going to take a square root of that. So go ahead and try doing that problem. And if you have any questions, we're going to give you like 5 minutes to do this. If you have any questions, again, ask in the questions channel. So yeah, go ahead. Okay, looks like there is a little bit of confusion on that, so let me clarify. Again, what we're going to be trying to do. Actually, let me pull it up on like a Desmos because I think you might actually like find it useful. So if you're kind of confused, go ahead and ask there in in like the little thing that we've set up, high lecture questions. But I want to show you what I actually mean by points in case anyone is kind of confused. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to start graphing because it might have been some time since you've done math, and I don't want math to be something that holds you all back. So we're just going to go through, I'll go through the math up here really quick with you so you can kind of understand what you're trying to do. So again, this is the Cartesian coordinate grid, and this is where you can plot different points and stuff. So we're going to plot 2 points. I think the task was 5, 3, if I believe, and that was 1, and the second point was 4, 5. Okay, so we have these 2 points right here. The goal is to basically find the distance between them. And basically the idea is, hey, we can maybe subtract the x value. So we see these are all the x values running down here, and these are all the y values. So the idea is, hey, maybe we can subtract the x values, so 5 and 4, and get 1 right here, and we can do 5 and 3, get 2 right there. And we can use that along with the Pythagorean theorem to find the distance. I understand that wasn't the most lucid explanation, but I feel like most people have gotten it. If you haven't, again, just ask a question. So we're gonna keep on going. Okay, so yeah, we're just gonna stay with this for a little bit. You have some time to try this out, and let's see what we get. If there's more questions on this, for anyone want me to explain the math, ask me, and I'll explain it further. But again, the idea is that we take 5 minus 4 and we square it, so that'll give us this side. So 5 minus 4 right here, right? It'll give us 1. And then right here, 5 minus 3, that'll give us that. So actually, let me put another point there so you can see it. Okay, yeah, ML Gamer, yeah, so you asked why can't we use slope? We can't use slope because of, remember, because we need to find the distance between these 2 points. And using slope, you cannot find the distance between these 2 points. Slope would kind of give you the rise between those 2 points. So I mean, I guess you could multiply, and then you can just multiply it by 1. That, I mean, that the computationally it works the same, but we want to use the distance formula. For the answers, we'll go through it afterwards. So if you have an answer, just go ahead and hold on for a sec. And I'll also go through why this like formula makes sense as I go through the answer. It was too hard to make sense right away. So um, let's see. Let's give it some more time. Yeah, again for exponents, you will need to use an exponent to square and stuff. This is how you square. Remember, if you want to square something, do it like this. So you can do, say I want to square 3, I can do 3 multiply times and 2. So that means 3 squared, which should give you 9. So that's how you square, by the way, in Python. Like this. I'll just leave it up so that everyone can see. If you want to square something, do this. And some people are messaging me saying that we're kind of going a little too slow. I really do apologize for like the rate that we're going at. I wanted to make sure that this kind of makes sense for everyone. I understand some of you out here are a little more, you've done more computer science stuff than other people, more programming, and that's okay. We all have like different paces. We're all at different places, so it's fine. We'll just give people some time so that they're able to get caught up. And if you want to help out, if you think that you've got the answer and want to help someone else out, feel free to do so in lecture questions. Um, but yeah, we just want to go slow enough so that everyone can kind of get the answer. No, it did not freeze. I just am not talking. Yeah, I just paused my thing so that you guys can continue working. I don't want to be talking while everyone's working. But yeah, go ahead and take your time and do the problem so that you're able to understand. We'll wait until the 40. That was the plan. Or yeah, for me it's 40. For you might be some other. So we've got like a minute. And again, always feel free to ask questions during the lecture. Um, that's kind of why we're here. So yeah, I want to point that out too. Like don't fret about asking questions because the more questions that you're able to ask, the more times you're able to fail, the more times you're able to learn. But if you never ask or if you never try to get help, then you just failed, right? But if you can grow from that, that's what we want to see, and that's how you would be able to succeed. So ask questions, please. Yeah, thanks for that detail. I think that covers it pretty much. Okay, so basically, when we go through this problem, this everything should sort of we hope that things fall into place, Um, but let's go through it anyways. So let's actually say, okay, let's give me these 2 points, 5 comma 3 and 4 comma 5. Find the distance between them. So first off, whenever we try to solve a program, before we even actually do the program, the first idea behind it all is to first figure out, hey, um, how can we model this? How can we model this stuff? How can we do that? So how can we kind of think about this without using code? How can we think about it in our heads? If we had to use a piece of paper, how would we solve it? So the first step to doing that is actually, let's try making a picture about it. And that's what we do. That's what I did here in Desmos. I try to make a picture here so that you can see the problem. The problem is asking that you're given 2 points, 5 comma 3, and then you have another point, 4 comma 5, and you want to find the distance between them. Now, without any tools, this may seem like a very, very hard problem to do. Like, how do I find the distance? What do I do here? So I'm going to give you all a tool. I'm going to say, okay, let's say that we have these 2 points right here. The distance between these 2 points, maybe we can find by Pythagorean theorem. And after you'll be like, okay, that's just more mumbo jumbo. Like, I don't understand what you're saying. So the idea is like this. We got the picture down. Let's build a triangle first. So we make a triangle real quick like this, 4 comma 3, right? This is what I'm trying to make a little triangle right here. So I have these points right here. I've got myself a tiny, neat little triangle right here. So the distance that we're trying to find is between these 2 points again right here, 4 comma 5 and 5 comma 3. Now, The picture that we sent earlier was to say that if you find the distance between these two, 4 comma 3 and 5 comma 3, and you find the distance between 4 comma 5 and 4 comma 3, you should be able to use those to get the distance here. So now you look at this for a second and say, okay, maybe how can I do that? How can I model this problem exactly, and how can I get it? So you could say, okay, so the distance right here between these 2 points would be 2. The distance, and you're asking like, how did I get 2? Well, look at this, just count. See, 1, 2. So the distance between these 2 points is 2, and the distance between these 2 points, 5 and 4, is 1. So we got those two distances, and I told you, we showed you guys a picture, I believe, of what you could do. So once you have those two distances, you can use this nifty little thing called the Pythagorean Theorem, and what you could do with it is, let's pull it up, look at this, it's beautiful. So what we can do is we can take those two side lengths, and we can use this equation right here to find the other side length squared. Now, this may be going over your head a little bit. You might be like, wait a second, man, hold up. I came here for a Python lecture, not a lecture in mathematics. I don't like math. And I'm sorry if that's you. I understand. But if you were able to comprehend this part of the math stuff, I think that would sort of help. But if you're not, that's also fine. We'll go through just how to do it algorithmically. And let's go ahead and point that out. So let's do that right here. And so if you're wondering, like after this, what you could do is, I just want to continue explaining the math for everyone who's interested. So 5 minus 4 down here at the very bottom, so right here, so between these 2 points, you're going to get 1. So 1 squared. Between these 2 points, you're going to get 2. Between 3 and 5, right here, these two, you'd get 2. So I'd do 2 squared. And I'd say, okay, hey, that is equal to my final side length squared. So just connect the dots here and imagine a small triangle right here. And I have a link actually to a nice way to show that in Desmos. And so we'll pull that one up also. Let's pull that up too. And again, I'm sorry that this is taking so long. We just originally didn't expect people to have some confusion with the math part. So that's why we're going through that. Again, as Aditya said, this will be the hardest part. Everything from here should be fairly easy. But basically, this is a triangle that we've set up, right? Like this. This is what we want to do, a triangle like that. And from there, so 5 and 4, and right here. So this would be, this side length right here is 1. See, 5 and 4, right? So this side length is 1, and we want to find this guy right here. So we could click this, we'll show the points. So we want to find this guy right there. So how would we do that? Again, we'd say this is 5 minus 4, or 1 squared. So I'll just do 5 minus 4 squared, all squared, plus this guy right here, which is 5 minus 3, all squared, equals this final side length, c. We're just going to call it c for now, and we're just going to say c squared. So this guy, I don't know what it is. That's the problem. We're calling it c squared. Okay. And once we get this right here, we can say, okay, let's just square root both sides, right? We'll get the same. It should do the same thing. So we'll square root both sides, and we'll say, okay, let's see. Now this is starting to get kind of complicated and looking really ugly and stuff, but you know, that happens sometimes. So this is kind of the equation we end up getting. So that is how we find c. So that is how we do it without using computers first, right? Now we've gotten the general idea of what's going on here. Now we kind of see how we could do this maybe without using computers. And if you wanted to actually go into this and kind of like think about it some more, you're 100% welcome to do that. For the sake of time, I'm just going to say that we are given the algorithm. So the idea to find this, given any 2 points, say we're given a point 5 comma 3 and given a point 4 comma 5, let's just say these are 2 points that we're given. The thing that we're going to use to find the answer, the distance between these 2 points, is like this, as follows. We take the first x-coordinate, like this, and we subtract it from the second x-coordinate, like this. We squared the whole thing. We do plus. We do the first y-coordinate, 3, minus the second y-coordinate, 5, and we square the whole thing again. And then we take this entire thing and we compute the square root of it. So we're just going to raise it to the power 1/2. That's how you do square roots. Again, just raise stuff to the power 1/2. Okay, so now we got the math background behind this kind of, and that's pretty much the entire problem. Python code itself isn't that hard. So let's go back to Python and let's see. So we're given 2 points, again, 5, 3, 4, 5, find the distance between them. So let's just say that. So let's say so the hardest part again is the actual math. And here in this case, the math is we take the first x coordinate, 5, right? These are x, y coordinates. And so 5 minus 4, and we square that entire thing. And so to square in Python, remember you do this, right? So actually, let me just type out the equation first like this, and then we'll go through how to convert it to Python code. And we do 3 minus 5, and we square that entire thing. And then we do all of this, again, all the stuff that here, and we'll do to the power 1/2. So now how do we convert this to Python code? Okay, let's start. Again, so this part is pretty much the same, 5 minus 4. But remember, Python does not have caret signs. So what you do is you use this, like this. 5 minus 4 to the power 2 plus 3 minus 5 to the power 2. And again, we said, hey, take this whole quantity, this entire quantity, and raise it to the power 1/2, or square root it. That's how you do a square root in Python. You just do this, like right here. So we raise it to the power 1/2. And now this is starting to get really complicated and hairy down here, so what we want to do is we want to print this right out. Okay, but I want you to see the steps that it took to get this giant equation, right? We didn't just magically get this. What we did is we planned first right here, and then once we had some sort of idea of what we want to do, we then took it out and we typed it up just how we would read it in like human language. And then what we did right here, we put this hashtag, right? And you might be wondering this whole time, what are these hashtags? They're confusing me. Well, let me explain. This hashtag, basically, this pound sign, whatever you want to call it, from whatever century you're in, you might call this a pound sign if you're from like the 20th century, 21st century Instagram, people just say hashtag. So we call this a hashtag, and what this does is it tells the computer, hey, just kind of ignore whatever I typed here. Don't worry about this. Just ignore it, 100%. You don't have to worry about it. So that's why I told you also to ignore it. This is kind of just human stuff, so we can just do that actually. We can do, look at this, we can just type whatever we want here, and it would be ignored by the computer. That's why it kind of shows up in gray. Nothing, the computer doesn't know anything about it. It just pretends it doesn't exist. So it's just a note to the programmer, honestly. Okay, so we kind of got that far, and we try printing it, and let's see if we get the right answer. Let's see what we get. Okay, I do believe that is the correct answer, though we could verify it really quick. 4 square root of 5, yes. That should be the correct answer. Nice. We found the distance between the 2 points. Thank you, Aditya. All right, cool. Let's move on then. So that was the hardest part of the class. I'm sorry if that was torturous for some of you. It'll be easier. It'll be easier the more you get used to it, for sure. But again, let's move on. So that's task 2, and that is the solution. I hope you got the solution. If you didn't, go ahead, pop a question in, ask. All right, let's move on to the next section then. Section 3, variables. Let's get started with this section. So what are variables? Okay, so computing, so you can actually see in this first task right here, look at how complicated this all began. And imagine if you were given 100 points, like 5, 3, 4, 5, and then hundreds more sets of those points, and asked to find the distance. You can quickly see how that entire process would become garbage. You would want to quit your job immediately. That is terrible, right? Doing this again and again. Think about all the errors that could happen, how much a person could mess up. That's 100% true. So we introduced this idea of a variable. And you'll see in a second how this works. So again, I made a comment here for my section so that you could see it. Remember, the computer just ignores that. So let's get to it. So let's say you want to store your first name and last name as a variable. So the task is maybe I want to store my name as a variable. Let's see, that's the task. And so again, this is just a note to me, a personal note to the programmer. And so we want to store something as like a variable. So let's say for the purposes of this tutorial that I am Bill Gates, and let's say that. So let's say my first name is Bill, and let's say my last name is Gates. Pretty cool, right? And you can actually run this, and you can it'll store it. But you might note, nothing popped out. We did not get Bill Gates to print out again. So the stuff after this, right? Stuff after this line, on this line, line 40 and line 41, nothing prints out, right? We don't see anything. We just see everything up to this line. So you might be saying, well, what's happening here? Why is nothing printing out? Well, let's think about what we did here. We took the word Bill, right? The name Bill. Bill is a word, and we stored it in first name. Okay, so we stored the value Bill to first name. We mapped those two values. Those values are now equal to each other. But we did not tell the computer to print first name out. We did not tell it to do anything with this first name. All we did is we just stored Bill into first name. Well, okay, that's cool. And you might be saying, why do you type this in? Why do you type these in these quotes, right? Like, what's the point? Like, why can't I just do this? Well, let's try it actually. Let's try typing stuff like this for a sec. Let's try not typing it in quotes. Okay, look at this. First error. Check this out. Traceback, most recent call, last. So that's pretty much just nonsense to us. File main.py, that's the file we're in, at line 40 in module. So line 40, right here, first name equals Bill. Name Bill is not defined. So this immediately tells you, if you want to say a variable is equal to a word or something like that, you have to put the quotes around it. And notice, this was the same thing back in the print statement too. Notice how whenever we try to print out a word, we'd put those little quotes around the thing. And it doesn't print out the quotes though. It doesn't print out the quotes. It just prints out the word inside. So that's what we have to do here too. Put quotes around your word. So if you have a word that you're setting your variable equal to, put quotes around it, like this. So now we have a quotes around our variable. Okay, so now let's try using this variable. Let's try accessing it. So how might we do that? It's actually pretty intuitive. So again, we want to display it out to the console, right? And so we can say, okay, let's print out first name. So let's try printing out first name. That's just the variable that stores the first name. And let's see what we get. Cool, we got Bill down here. So we got our first name. That's actually pretty impressive. Let's say we want to print out last name also. So remember, you can use the comma and you can say last name. That'll separate it. So let's see, last name. There we go. First name and last name. Bill Gates, it outputted. And note the similarity though. Right here, you might say, hey, what's the point of doing all this variable stuff? It actually takes up some time making a variable. Why not just go through and do the basics right here? Why not just print out Bill Gates right here? Well, note this. Look at this. I can change this name right here to anything I want to. I could do Jeff Bezos. I could change the name to anything that I want to. It doesn't matter. I could do whatever I want here. So if I run it again, you'll be able to see Jeff Bezos. So that's the first principle about a variable. A variable is useful because it's because of its inherent usability. Because you can use it for many different values. You don't only have to choose one value. You can change the value right here. You could do Jeff. You could do whatever you want. And so that's the first reason a variable is useful. Second reason why variables might be useful to you is that you can use this is sort of for storage. You can use Jeff now wherever you want. You can use it right here. You can try it again. It doesn't get used up or anything. You can just try it again. You can do first name like this. And you can print it out again. And let's see what we get. And again, let's see, Jeff. So it's pretty useful because, again, you can use it again and again. These variables, you can use them whenever you want. That's why this can be pretty useful. Okay, so let's go into this. What else can we do with variables? So one thing I want to point out right here, what this quotation mark it means, it tells the computer, hey, I called them words previously, but you can think of these as strings. Okay, these things are called strings. If you want to use the fancy terminology, these are called strings. You can think of them just as words. Okay, but in official terminology, these are called strings. And so we can put this here, strings. And so again, let me explain this again. This is again, what officially its name is a comment. After the hashtag, it's a comment. The computer just ignores the rest of this, right? Anything after the hashtag, the computer ignores. Anything in this gray, like in this gray color, the computer is going to ignore. So just a pro tip about that. But what these are called, like this, whenever you put something in quotations, it's called a string. Okay, that's cool. That's one type of variable. What else can we do? Well, remember up here we talked about using decimals and integers. Maybe we can do something about that. So let's change this back to Bill Gates for a sec, and let's see. Let's set his age. I do believe he is 64 years old or something like that. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So look at that. We set another variable, age, 64. So that's cool. We can set variables for age. And note how we did not use this time the quotation marks around that. This is because 64 is not a word, or we did not choose to represent it as a word. We chose the number form. So we can just run it as a number, and let's actually try running it, see if we get an error. See, nothing happened. We were able to get through and we did not get an error. That means that we're able to write numbers like this without putting them in this, right? And if you want to put a number, don't do this because that treats the number as a word. I'll get into that in a second. But write this like that. Age equals 64. Let's move on. Let's just say Bill Gates' favorite number is, I don't know, pi. And let's say we want to represent a variable called fav number. So fav num. And we do, let's actually start it out like this. Let's start this variable like that. Fav num equals pi, right? And so we're just going to type the number pi, which is that. All right, let's see. So immediately we get a squiggly line. I want you to sit back for a second and think why this might happen. Is it because we typed too many digits? Or is it something else? Go ahead and think about that. Why did we get this error? Why is there a squiggly line? And let's try running it, actually. Let's give it a second. Let's try running it. Let's see if the error is still there. Look at this. File main.py, line number 44, syntax error, invalid syntax. Whoa, what is this? This creepy looking console. What is going on here? Look at this. So it tells you, hey, it points a caret sign right here and says, hey, there's something wrong with this exclamation mark. Invalid syntax. Now, what is syntax? What is a syntax? Syntax is simply the way the way the words work in our language. You can think of it sort of as like, hey, you misspelled a word, all right? That's what it's telling you. It's like, hey, you misspelled a word, or rather not even just misspelled a word. It's just telling you that, hey, you used improper convention. So if I had to relate this back to like English or something, I might say, hey, you said noun, noun, noun. You can't do that. You have to say noun, verb. That's kind of what's happening here. It's saying invalid syntax. And in simple terms, why you can't do this is just saying, hey, you can't have an exclamation mark before a variable. Now you might say, hey, why not? Why can't I do that? What's the problem with that? Well, that's just the way the Python guys, when they made this, they just said, hey, you can't have this exclamation mark before a variable. You can't do that. Okay, so we just like, okay, let's take it out. Let's try something else. Try a number. Let's put 3 over there. Again, we get the squiggly line. Let's try it again. Let's see if we can, again, 3, invalid syntax. It's saying the same thing. So we're starting to discover that there are some rules about how you name these variables right here. You cannot just name variables willy-nilly. There has to be an order to how you name them. The correct order, I'm going to save you all the pain of going through and trying out all the characters, is like this. Either you start out with a letter, like this, like F, and then you can continue, so you can say like F and whatever. See, it doesn't care if it's like that. It doesn't care. It'll work perfectly. So that works, right? But the second you do something like before it, if you start out with like a number or something like that, it throws an error. So the rules for naming variables, let's go through that really quickly. The rules for naming variables, either you start it with an underscore or you start it with a letter. All right, you can start it with an underscore if you want. If you want your variable to start like this, you start with that, or you start it with a letter. Like it can be a capital letter, whatever, no one cares, right? You can do whatever you want, it's your variable. So, but the convention is to use lowercase letters. So we do favorite, and we usually type out the word, and then we say, if we want to type a second word into our variable, you can't put a space here. Let's try running this for a second. Let's see if we get something. And you'll see invalid syntax again. So if you're making a variable, you cannot put a space between your variables. What you can do to separate that, because this looks horrendous and you can't tell what this is, you can actually just put an underscore. And you can say, okay, favorite number. Awesome. This looks readable. The computer likes it. I like it. Everyone's happy. All right? Even Bill Gates. So now Bill Gates' favorite number is 3.14159, so on and so forth. Okay. Now let's go through. Let's try printing out favorite number just to see if we can return something. Let's see what happens. And note that it will return the value of favorite number. So I printed out 3.141529. Yeah, the rest of that. I'm too lazy to read it off all. Okay, so it printed it all out. All right, cool. That's awesome. Now how can we extend this? What else can we do with this? Okay, so you can obviously do a lot more with variables than just that, and let's kind of go through what else there is to do with variables. But I want to establish something. We have covered the basic variables. Strings, these are called strings. These are called integers or numbers, and these right here are called floats. or like decimal values. That's how you might think about them. Decimal values. Awesome. Cool. All right. Now let's go ahead and try. So now that we've talked a little bit about a variable convention, let's actually try outputting out all this information together. So say we wanted to output everything on one line. So how do we do that? We do print first name, comma, last name, comma, age. Look at that. Now see and favorite number, and you can print out your favorite number. Awesome. And you can print that out, and you can press run, and you'll see it all printed out on one line right here. Bill Gates, 64, 3.14. Now this is, again, horrendous. No one can tell what you're trying to say here, right? So you might want to specify, hey, this is the actual first name. So how would you do that? Well, again, just type it like a string, like this. You can do first name equals, and then you can put a comma, and so check this out. Let's see what it gives you. So first name equals Bill. Then you could, after this comma, you could add another string. You could say last name, comma, and then the value of last name. So note the difference between this. This right here tells you the first name. This is just like a word you can think of, a string. These are a set of characters that are tied together and just outputting out there. This is the variable, which is going back, so it's going through the code. It comes to this line and says, hey, first name, what do I remember being the first name? Okay, Bill, let me put that out, so on and so forth. So that's how that works. And it basically goes on. So it goes to last name, and it's like, hey, what is last name? Let me go up here. Okay, here's the variable, Gates. But notice something. If I name this like L, like this, like capital L, and if I try running it, you'll see an error pop up. You say last name is not defined. So note that these have to be exact, or else the computer won't know what's happening. It has to be 1 to 1. This has to be exact, right? This has to be the same, lowercase, everything has to be the same. Okay, let's go on. So let's try another way to set up some variables too. So note this, this is just a convention thing, but it's pretty cool actually. Let's try this. What if we want to define first name and last name on one line? Or what if we want to define two values on one line? How do we do that? Like this, n1, n2 equals 3, 4, and 3, right? So this also works. So n1, n2 equals 3, 4. And so how does this work? Well, n1 is set to 3 and n2 is set to 4. So we can actually test that out, print n1, and let's see if we get something. So down here, 3. Awesome, it worked. We were able to print out 3. So that's cool. So that's what you can do with that's another way you can set multiple values equal to each other on one line. So if you kind of want to set all the information equal, you could just use a bunch of these things. So you could do something like this, and I'm just going to use my name here. So I could do first name. I could reassign this variable, first name, last name, age, something else, favorite, number, right? I'm just reassigning all these variables. And I could just set these equal like this. I could say my first name is Rishi, my last name is Pathak, my age is 17, and my favorite number is 7.0. Something like that. And that would work too. So, you can feel free to do that. But if you like doing it this way, that's also fine. No harm, no foul. You're all good. So let's keep going. So we got through that. Okay. Let's try something else. Let's try one more thing. This is just kind of something that's cool to know, not like super duper useful, but again, you never know. So this is called a long string, right? Let's say we wanted to have a string that if you type all in one line like this, for example, look at this. So we're going to type that, the quick brown fox jumped over the dog. This is kind of long, right? Maybe you want this to be a little bit more readable. So how could you do that? Well, what you could do is you can actually put 2 quotation marks right here, and you can put 2 on the other side. And now if you try reading it, look at this, quick brown fox. Oh shoot, this plugin crashed. Oh no. Let's see if oh no, looks like Repple's going down. Let's try refreshing the page. That usually helps. Let's see. I think my computer's getting a little overloaded here. Let's see popping this up. I'm sorry about that, but let's see. Let's get this back up in a second. But I think this Discord stream and recording it and everything else is a little too taxing on the computer. Okay, hey, we're back. Nice, awesome. Okay, so let's go back here, and again, let's resume where we were. Again, let's put 2 down here, and let's put 2 over here. And check this out. So we can type it up like this. Quick brown fox jumped over the dog, right? And this works too. And then you can actually try printing this out. Print out long string. Let's see if we can print that out. And everything, let's see if everything works. Cool. So notice how it printed out. It automatically put the spaces in there for you. That's cool. So if you ever want to do something like that, you can use the long string. So this, again, is called a long string. And again, note, I put a hashtag, and I'm going to say long string. So the computer ignores this. It's not going to print this out. You know, you could actually say, you could print, hey, computer, print this out. Print, I don't know, print 3 plus 3, right? It's 3 plus 4, or 3 plus 3, let's do that. It's not going to print anything out. It's going to completely ignore that, right? So no matter what you say right here, it ignores it. I just want to accentuate that because some people are messaging me with confusion about comments. But that's how comments work again. So again, we got through pretty much all the variables, and that's pretty cool. So you've pretty much understood variables by now. It should not be too hard for you. If there are questions, ask. But now let's move on to another task. Let's go with an easy task this time. Let's try task 3.1. Let's pull up this first task for this. Okay, so say hi to yourself. So the goal of this task is basically going to be like this. So I'm going to paste it in right here. Say 3.1. Say hi to yourself. Now, the goal of this task is basically you want to take a variable, right? And I'm going to outline this in my comments so you can understand. You want to take a variable. You want to take a variable that your name as a variable. So you want to take your name as a variable. So something like maybe first name equals Jeff, and you want to take your last name also as a variable. So last name equals Bezos, and make sure to always put these on, by the way. I sometimes forget too. Bezos. And so these are strings. You want to take your name as a string variable. You want to take it as a string variable, and then you want to output hello Jeff Bezos back to the screen. So try doing that. Let's see if you're able to get it. We'll go through the solution in about 5 minutes. And until then, I'm just going to be here. I'm going to mute myself. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask during in like the questions channel. So I'm just going to mute myself, but don't worry, I'm still here. Okay, to further clarify the question, basically this is what you want to happen. You want to take your first name and you want to take your last name as a variable, right? So Jeff Bezos, and you want to be able to print this out. So the output, this is how your output should come out, like this. Output should be something like this. It should say, hi, Jeff Bezos. Something like that, right? That's what you want to do with this task if there's any confusion still remaining. So you want to take your name as a variable, last name as a variable, and say hi to yourself. And you can actually even make it ask a question or something if you want to extend it further. Say like, what is your favorite color? Cool, right? You can do something like that. I don't know. Okay, so just to gauge how we all are on time, if you're still working on this, go ahead and just pop your name in and just say, hey, I'm still sort of working on this. I need some more time. Because if you do, that's fine. But if you are done, then we'd appreciate. I mean, we kind of want to know how many people are there. So yeah, if you still need some more time, go ahead and ask. But I think we'll wait for just a minute or two before going through. And I see some people out there struggling and trying to get help. That's awesome, guys. That's how you're gonna benefit the most. It's gonna be a struggle bus, but once you're there, you understand it. So go ahead, and if you don't get stuff, then that's fine. Okay, I think most people are kind of approaching the solution, and I'm going to go through how to kind of do this. And if you need help, just post there, and we shall help you. But this is the solution we'll go through right now. Okay, cool. Let's go through it. Okay, so first name, Jeff Bezos is an evil man, so let's not do Jeff Bezos. Let's do something else. Don't tell him I said that, please. Let's do something else. Let's do Daft Punk. They're my favorite band. So first name Daft, last name Punk. Okay, and now we're gonna try to print this out. We're gonna say print, right? And we're gonna say, hey, we want to print something out, so we're gonna say hi, Daft. No. We probably want to say hi, Daft Punk. We'd say hi, and then let's put commas again, right? Get the space, and we want to say first name, right? Last name, and let's say, how are you doing? Awesome. Let's ask Daft Punk that. So let's try running it. Okay, and so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a blank print statement right before it. And so this blank print statement, if you're wondering, like if you don't put anything in this print statement right here, what it does is it puts it puts like a space. So I want to show you that before we move on. So look at that. So if we put a blank print statement right here, it puts a slight space between the stuff above. So that kind of allows us to set everything down a little bit, set our frame of view down. So here's my program. Hi Daft Punk, how are you doing? And to make this look nicer, you might want to put I don't know, some sort of just like a semicolon or something like that, or like a period or something. I don't. It doesn't matter too much, but that's kind of how you want to say it. And so the cool part about this is, hey, you can change his name to anything. You can change it to a different band. You could do Maroon 5, for example. You could do Maroon 5, and it would still work, right? So it still worked. Everything still worked, and everything is fine. So you can just change his name to whatever you want, really. But I'll leave it as Daft Punk. So that's why variables are cool, because they're reusable, kind of. So let's keep going. I think most people are content with this, and everyone's kind of understood this. And if there's any problems, again, ask. Okay, let's go on. Let's take this what we did right now one step further. Hey, let's say, I mean, having the user actually go into the code and type this is pretty lame, right? We want the user to be able, so this is the screen that the user sees. They want to just be able to type their name and stuff right away. We don't want them to come to the code and type Daft Punk. We don't want those robot Daft Punk guys messing with our code. So how do we do that, right? Okay, let's take a look at it. So this is section 4, inputs. Take input from the user. Okay, take data from the user. The user's over here. You want to take data from them. And how do we do that? Okay, let's go after it. I'm just gonna put a little blank print statement, which again, if there's any confusion, it just puts a space between it. And I'm also actually just gonna do something like this to set off our next task. I'm just gonna do this. Print a bunch of these line things, dashes, so that it's kind of clear that we're on the next task now. Okay, section 4, inputs. Take data from the user. How do we do that? Okay, let's think about it. Well, it's pretty intuitive, right? How do you do everything else in Python? You kind of just type it out and see see where it gets you, honestly. So the idea with this is like, hey, how do we take inputs? Python actually has a predefined thing in its in its code, a predefined function, kind of like print. It's called input. Someone actually just pointed it out. Nice job. It's called input, like this. We do input like this, and we type in whatever we want to input in. And actually, you can actually, when you type input, Repple gives you a little thing right here. Read a string from standard input. The trailing new line is stripped. So read a string from standard input. The prompt string, if given, is printed to standard input. So see, look at that. You type in a prompt. So this kind of helps you out sometimes while you're typing it. This is code intelligence or something. Kind of tells you what a little bit about the function. But you can type your stuff here. Let's type in an input. Let's say, what do we want the user to input? Let's say we want them to input your first name. So say, what is your first name? Wow, look at that. And you can store this actually as a variable. You can say, okay, well, let's just see if this works first. Let's see if it works, and if we get any errors. Okay, what is your first name? Cool, I'll say my first name is Rishi. Nice. So nothing happened. That's kind of like, if nothing happens, then you kind of feel sad that your program didn't accomplish too much of anything. So let's make this a bit more exciting. Let's make it our goal to print out my first and last name. And with this, so let's say first name, right? We want to store this as the first name, and last name. We want to store what as our last name. Let's do input and type in the prompt again. What is your last name? Okay, let's see. Let's try it. First name is Rishi, last name is Pathak. Okay, again, nothing too cool happened. So, I mean, you know, we probably want to make this cooler than just that. We want to do something exciting with this. So how can we make this kind of exciting? Well, maybe we can print something back to them. We can say, okay, print these variables out. We can say, hey, print first name. So we call the print function again. And what do we want to put inside the print function? What do we want to display to the computer? You can just think of this print function as a display. We want to display the guy's first name plus, right? Or we can just use a comma, last name, and we want to say some message. So our message is going to be, let's say, what's up, man? How you doing? Like that. Cool. So now we run this. We do Rishi, Pathak. You can put in your own name. Rishi Pathak. What's up, man? Cool. Now maybe you don't call your friend by their first and last name, so maybe you just do, hey, first name, you know, and you store their last name for later, so you can, like, if you ever need to use their last name, so you can just say Rishi Pathak, and hey Rishi, what's up, man? Something like that, right? Now that's pretty cool. We can output stuff back to the user. Awesome. Okay. And let's say we also wanted to get some more data from this person. Let's say we're making like a database, an app or something. We want to get some more data. We might need the person's age or something. We might say age, input, again, same type of input, and then we say, remember, you always put everything, you always put these things, anything you're spitting back out in quotation marks. So the computer knows that this is going to go in quotation. This is something that I have to display out. Again, these are called strings. You always put it in this though. Always put your words in this. So Python knows that, hey, these are the programmer's words. This is what he wants me to display. So you can say age, what is your age? Like that, right? And you can store that value as an age. So Rishi, Pathak, age is 17 for me. What's up, man? Right? Same thing. Okay, cool. So you can use your age, and maybe you can say something else. You can say print, and again, I'm going to do, again, we want to pronounce some words. We're going to say in 4 years, you will be, and so how do we add 4 to the age? We just do this. We do age plus 4. Now think about what's going to happen here. Python's going to go, it's going to find age, and it's going to replace it with the value it got. So it's going to say it got 17 for the age, it's going to replace it. It's going to, in its head, just kind of replace it. So this is going to read, age is going to read as 17. So the 17 plus 4, you should get 21, right? Let's see if that works. Let's try typing some stuff in again, 17. Let's see, hold up. Age could not concatenate. Okay, so that is an error that we're going to get to in the next module right away, but I wanted to point that out for everyone so that everyone could kind of see this. Age plus 4, how that kind of screws up, because intuitively you would think that. I'll get to that in the next section. For now, let's just go with this. Let's do a task, and then we'll get to that. We'll hold that thought for why that didn't work for just a second. Let's get to the next task. And now, let's try a simple email creator. Let's do something like that. So here's your task as the programmer. Here's what you're gonna want to do. So take your email. So you're gonna take the person's first name, you're gonna take the person's last name, and you're gonna make an email from that name, right? So let's take an input again. So what we want to do is we want to take the person's first name. So take a user's first name. Then oh shoot, what was that? First name. Okay. Oh, I see what's happening. First name, and then take a user's last name, and then take their age, and take their age, and and I'll put some sort of email like this, an email address for them like this. So it could be, for me, it would be Rishi Pathak 17 at gmail.com, right? So try doing that. Try making an email creator when you can do that. For Jeff Bezos, it would be Jeff Bezos. I don't know how old he is. Let's just say he's 16 at and Amazon hasn't been invented when he was 16, so at gmail.com. He's going to be using Gmail too. But I don't know if Gmail was invented. But go ahead and take something and a first name, last name, and an age, and go ahead and make it like at gmail.com, an email creator. So go ahead and try doing that. We'll give you 5 minutes to go ahead and do that. Until then, I'm just going to mute my mic so you don't hear me breathing and stuff, because that's kind of weird.
Just an update on the lecture time. It's currently about 6 minutes until when we scheduled to finish. We're probably about 10 minutes to finish. We'll be finishing after this task. We'll be finishing one more section, and then we'll stop. So yeah, just wanted to give you an update on when we can do it. And if you need to leave exactly at when the scheduled time was, feel free. We'll continue to post the lecture videos as well as all the lecture notes on in the announcements channel for Python, and then we'll also be posting the video lecture within a few hours. Thank you.
Okay, let's sort of get back to this, kind of go through how this kind of is going to work. If you're still working, that's fine. You can just sort of just go ahead and for now and tune to how we're going to do this, and then you can continue if you want later. Okay, so I'm going to go through now. There's many ways to do this, and a bunch of people are posting different types of solutions. I wanted to keep this as simple as possible, so I'm going to go through sort of the most simple way to do it. So we have our comments here, and we sort of have the idea, general idea of how we want to approach this problem. So we want to take the user's first name. We're going to do first name equals and input. What is your first name? Right, and that should store the first name. Now we want to take the user's last name. Last name equals input. What is your last name? We want to take their age. Age equals input. What is your age? Now, and we want to print it out. So you might have, when you tried printing it out, you probably ran into this error, which I kind of wanted, I was hoping would happen. You might have ran into this error. Last name, and you might have done age, and you probably did something like this, add gmail.com, like that. You tried running it, and you're like, oh no. You're gonna be like, let's put in our name, Rishi, Pathik, 17. Oh, wait, hold up. Oh, one sec. It's running this right here. Oh, my bad. Yeah, let's put that as comments. My bad. Let's try it one more time. Stop it, and let's run it again. Okay, run. What is your first name? Rishi, Pathik. What is your age? 17. So you probably ran into this problem with these spaces, and you're like, hey, what kind of email has spaces between a person's name, right? That doesn't make any sense. I don't like that, right? And that's true. You probably don't want that happening. So what you can do if you want to make that, not have these spaces, is you can do one of two things. First thing is this idea called concatenation, which is instead of putting the comma, which tells the printer, hey, put this as a space, just do a plus sign. Okay, and check what happens. If you do a plus sign between everything, all the variables like this, so I do first name plus last name plus age plus this gmail.com, see what happens. Check it out. So you do Rishi, Pathik, what is the age? 17. Look at that. Everything gets combined into one string, right? It all gets combined. So that's what this thing does, this plus thing right here. It combines everything into one string. And you might want to go into it a little bit more just to see what this does. So how does this string combining work? Let's just say you have a first name, right? First name equals car, or I don't know. Let's not do first name anymore. That's getting kind of old. Let's say car model equals Ford, right? Ford like this, and car type equals GT, right? A Ford GT. So if you wanted to combine this, you could do a car. You could just make a variable car and say that's equal to car model plus car type, right? And you'll see what happens. And if we do this and if we try to print out car, now if we try to print out car, what are we going to get? Let's see. I'm going to comment this out for a second. I'm just going to take it out for a second because I don't want it to ask me for input. So we're going to try running that and let's see what we get. Ford GT. Everyone see that? How that prints out Ford GT? So what a plus sign does is it just combines both of these strings. Now if we do minus between this, you might say, hey, well, let's subtract GT or something. Let's try it. Let's see what we get. Oh no, you can't subtract between strings. So that's the answer for that. So that's why you have to do a plus sign right here. So if you do a plus, it just combines both these strings into one giant string. Okay, so that's how it kind of pops up. Okay, cool. So let's Control Z back all the way to our problem and just delete all this. And so that's why this works right here. That's why you're allowed to do plus sign. Don't memorize it. Kind of understand why it's working. Okay, let's do it one other short task before we go through. Or we actually, I think people understand this concept enough, so I think we're safe to move on for time purposes. So we're going to go to section 5, which is type conversion. So let's test this out. Let's do this. Let's try this out. Let's do take two numbers, right? Take two numbers and do And let's see what we're able to do with these two numbers. So ideally, if we have two numbers and we want to print out their difference, for example, we're making a small, simple calculator. So let's do print n1 minus n2. Let's do that, right? Let's print this out. And again, someone asked, I think, why did I comment the previous code? So let me show you why exactly right now. So if you pay attention to the screen, so I'm trying to run this part of my code right here, which is please enter a number. You might see how it's still asking me my name and stuff like that. And that's kind of annoying. I don't want to look at all this garbage right here right now. So what I can do is I can just go ahead and put little hashtags right before each line like this. And that comments out the code like that. See? And so now if you run it again, if you try running this entire thing again, you'll see it gets you to this line. So that's why I commented out the code. Okay, so please enter a number. Let's enter a number. Let's do 5. And so again, the idea behind this is we take two numbers and we find the difference between them. Please enter a number, 5. Please enter a second number, 3. Oh, look at this. Type error. Unsupported operand types for str, which stands for string and string. And where did this happen? Line 83. So right here, our code broke. Now why? I want you to think about it for a second. I want you to try something else with this. Go ahead when you put these two put these two numbers in. Like I want you to try to print this out and just see what is happening. Try this on your own console and try to see what's going on here. And if there's any ideas on why this might fail, go ahead and like shout it out or something in like lecture questions. But just think for a second why this might not succeed. Okay, so we have some ideas rolling in, and some people are saying, okay, it's a string. Well, that they might be on the right track there. So it says unsupported operand types for minus, right? For this minus sign, string and string. So basically, Python's trying to say, hey, if you're doing a minus sign and if you're trying to subtract some stuff, if you're trying to perform the subtraction operation, you can't be using strings, man. That doesn't make sense. And it's true. Plus sign sort of makes sense, right? If we do plus, that sort of makes sense, but on minus doesn't make sense. So actually, to see this one step further, let's go ahead and try adding them. That's how we're going to see the true answer. Let's try doing n1 plus n2, and let's see what we get. And let's try. Do 5 and 3. 53. Now, in no world does 5 and 3 give you 53, except when both of these are being treated as strings. So to see what is truly happening here, this is what we're going to do. Look at this. So if you do 5 plus 3, you get 8 without the little quotation marks. But if you do 5 quotation marks plus quotation mark with 3, you get 53, right? In these quotation marks. So what's happening here? Remember what I said. N1, if we just take input like this, it gives us input as a string, right? And to see that, here's what we're going to do. If we want to see that, we're going to say print type of N1. So that's going to give us the type that N1 is, the data type, right? And we're going to print type of N2. So notice I just did the type function. So basically what I did, like sorry, I think I did that a little too fast. I'm going to go through one more time. To get these two things, I did the type function, which is going to return the type of N1. And I want to print that out, that value that it gets over to the console. So print type of N1, and then I basically did the same thing with N2. And so now I try doing that. So if we try running this program, we're going to take a second here. We're going to input a number 5. We're going to put another number 3. Both of these come up as class string. So now here's the catch. Both of these numbers aren't being treated as numbers by Python. They're treated as strings. They're treated as words. So Python is thinking in its head, oh, okay, this is just the word 5. It's some sort of word 5, right? And we can read this and say, hey, no, that's a number, man. But Python thinks it's a word. That's why it's showing it class string. In your head, you can replace this as class word if you want to. So how do we fix this now? How can we get this to actually work? Well, let's get into this. Let's see how we can fix it. The simple fix to do this is every time we take an input, we take it as a string, let's just tell Python to convert it. And you might say, how do I do that? How do I tell Python to convert my code, right? How do I tell it, hey, I want to convert this string value into an integer. Let's try this. So I'm going to paste some stuff, the solution in right here. Let's try this. Okay, so notice that both of those were strings, right? And then Python's interpreting the stuff as words. So to fix it, right here, zone in on this section right here. To fix this, let's surround this entire input statement with these two with a function called int. So what does int do? Let's look at it for a second. Int by itself takes in a string, right? It takes in a string. You can hover over it and you can actually see. Converts a number or string to an integer or returns 0 if no arguments are given. So if no arguments are given, it'll just return 0. But if nothing is like given in this parenthesis, it'll return 0. But if you give it a value, a parameter, an argument, the stuff that goes inside the parenthesis like this, and if we give it input, please enter a number. Remember, input's going to take in the number that people enter as a string, and this is going to convert it to an int. Now, if this isn't making sense too much, just pay attention for just a second, and I think you'll be able to understand. So let me comment out the code above. And all right, here we go. Let's try running it. Let's see what happens. Now we're on this line right here, 92, remember. Please enter a number, 5. Please enter another number, 3. We finally get 2. So note the difference. Right here, it used this int thing, and it converted our string to an integer. Now, actually, let's try this other thing. Let's try putting in like a name here, like Ford or something. Look at this. Invalid literal for int with base 10. Ford. You cannot convert Ford to an integer. That doesn't make any sense. And Python recognizes that. It says, hey, you can't do that. So now all this stuff is int. And just as a safety check, just to make sure that we're still dealing with ints here, we just check the type of n1. And then we print that out. So we just print it out like this. What is the type of n1? Let's see. Please enter number 5 and 3. Okay, class integer, int class. That's cool. We're back in ints now. We're dealing with ints. That's nice. Let's try something else. Let's see. Maybe we can break this code further. Let's do this. Let's run this program. Let's enter a number 5.3. Whoa, what happened here? Invalid literal for int with base 10. So remember way back when I said, hey, what is an integer? It's all those numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? 5.3 is a decimal value. So the computer, when it looks at this, it gets this string, which is 5.3. So basically this is what happening. The computer, it gets an input 5.3 like this, in quotation marks, right? It looks at this, it's like, hey, let me convert this to an int. It looks at it and it's like, hey, I cannot convert this to an int, right? What is 5.3? I can't pull an int out of that. That's impossible, right? I can't, this is decimal stuff. So the computer just throws an exception and just says this is value error. I cannot convert this. So what if we wanted to convert to decimal values? Remember, in Python, decimal values are called floats, floating point. And that's because you have the decimal point, so they call it a float. If you don't understand where the name comes from, that's fine. Like, it boggles me why they didn't just say decimal or something. But still, it's called float. So you just type in float, and now, let's see what happens now. Please enter a number, 5.3. Please enter another number, 3.7. Class float, and here's our answer. And note that it throws a bunch of 9s out. It should be 1.6 because Python is weird in the way it calculates math, but that's fine. That's not a big deal. So note that it is class float now, which is pretty cool. So I think now we'd be able to visit our earlier error about adding an age, and we'd be able to look at it. So let's try that actually. Let's go back to our when we were asking the guy for their name, and let's just ask someone for their age. So let's take age as an input, right? So here's your next task. Let's define the next task first. Let's do task 5.1. Now originally we had chosen a more math heavy task, which was the distance formula, but I'm starting to realize that that was not the smartest idea. So we're choosing a lighter math task. And so the lighter math task here is going to be take an age, take a number from someone, take an age, and add 4 to it. So what you're going to ask your user, you're going to say, hey, what is your age, right? You're going to ask your user that, and then you're going to output this. You're going to get some value. You might say, for me, it would be 17. And you're going to output like something like this. In 4 years, you will be 21 years old. Nice. You're going to put something out like that. So why don't you go ahead and try doing that on your computer. Go ahead and take some time. We're going to do 5 minutes. I know we're running over time, but for those of you that have stuck and are still trying to stuck here and still trying to learn, I appreciate that. We did not expect people to have so much difficulty with the math parts, and but we want to ensure that this class is for anyone who wants to learn how to code. So if you're a beginner, that's fine. We're gonna go easy, and we're gonna take this. We're just gonna finish this lesson, finish up this one task, and we're probably just gonna end it right here. So go ahead and try doing this task.
By the way, all of the lecture notes and everything we went over today will be released after the lecture ends, probably 15 minutes after the lecture ends, so roughly 5 p.m. EST. And the homework for the next week that you guys can complete that will use everything we've learned from today will be released maybe an hour after the lecture ends. And the video will also be released within a few hours, in case you want to rewatch or in case anyone missed part of the lecture. So yeah, that's all.
Okay, so I'm starting to see some answers pop up, so I'm gonna take a limb here and go on a limb here and assume that people are starting to find the solution. So I'm gonna go through the solution up here, and so let's go through it. And again, if you need some more time or something, you feel free to ask, hey, I need more time, and we'll slow down. Okay, let's go. Okay, so task 5.1, take an age and add 4. So I want to input someone's age and say, hey, what is your age? I'm just going to do that. Age equals input. Again, I'm calling the input function to get user input. What is your age? Cool, let's do that. And now, again, when we want to add 4 to this, we're going to see that there's an error when we add 4. So we're going to be like, okay, how do we do that? So age plus 4, right? This is going to throw an error. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert age over to an int. So we're going to say fixed age, like this, is int age. So we take an age and we fix it, and now we assign that value over to fixed age. That's cool. Okay, now let's see what we can do with this fixed age. Now we can add stuff and subtract stuff from fixed age. So we'll print something out like this, and this time I want to print it out, just print out one variable to make our print statement look nice. So we're going to say x, we're just going to define an x, and we're going to say x is going to be equal to you in 4 years, you will be, and you can put a space here, or you will be plus, and we're going to put in the number of age plus 4. So we're going to do fixed age plus 4 years of age, right? So we're going to print this out, and that's going to be x, right? And now x should say in 4 years you will be, and then it's going to print out fixed age plus 4. So 17 for me plus 4. So we're going to print that out, print out x, and that should just print out our answer. So that's just, I mean, that's just, for me, it's a nice way to do it. So we'll do it like that. So please enter, oh, we're still up here, so let's go ahead and comment out this guy up here. Let's comment it out, comment, ooh, comment. Let's try it one more time. What is your age? 17. Oh no, what happened here? Let's see, main.py in 4 years can only concatenate string, not int. Oh, okay, so here's the problem. When we did plus fixed age plus 4, this was we were now trying to add to a string and an int together. So that doesn't work. So how can we fix that? Let's just cast the stuff, typecast, that's what it's called. Let's convert the stuff to a string, like this. Then we can add those two strings together. So now let's try it. Let's see. What is your age? 17. In 4 years you will be 21. So note how everything in x turned out to be a string. And if we wanted to do the other way, we can use print and then the commas. That works too. Either way you want to go about it, that works. So that's how we do it. Extension of this problem I encourage you to try after this lecture is ask the person for their age, and then also ask them for how many years do you want to go into the future? How many years do you want to go into the future? And you can say 4 years I want to go into the future, and based on that you can change your value of, you can change what you add to age. So right here we added 4. Maybe you want to go 5 years into the future, then you can add 5 or something like that. So I encourage you to try that after the lecture is over. But as for now, we have gone about, I think, about 20 minutes after past time, so we're going to call it a day today. Again, I appreciate everyone who tuned in for the lecture, and I appreciate all the help that we got here. Co-leading this the session was Aditya. Aditya wrote some of the lecture notes and the rest of the stuff that we used here. Other than that, we had Puneet, Suvan, and a few other people out here just helping out with this lecture. Aaron, anyone else, if I missed you, I'm sorry, but these were the guys that were helping out with today's lecture. So if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to them. They're like the TAs for this course, so feel free to reach out to them. Feel free to reach out to me. Again, today we found out that some people, we do not expect people to struggle with the distance formula, which is why we had a little rough patch during our lecture, but we apologize for that, and we will rewrite the rest of this material for the course to not include most of any math whatsoever. But if you want to go into that, we'll include some math supplement on the homework, like a math supplement if you want to do a problem that has some math involved in it. But if you don't, that's 100% fine. The main goal here is not to learn mathematics, but rather to learn programming. So,
All of the
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
examples that we did today, all the are provided in the lecture notes, and then we also have the hardcore math question also provided in the lecture notes. Those are the questions that we skipped today to save time and also lessen the confusion. But if you would like to go over those, then they're in the lecture notes, and if you have any problem with it, feel free to ask me the questions.
Yep. And I encourage you, after you end this lecture, after we end this lecture, don't just get up and just do something else right away. Maybe think about what you've learned, try to make something cool with what you've learned so far, explore a little bit, try doing that, because if you go away after a day, you might not retain the information. So just try practicing on your own command, on your Replit, and just go ahead and type some code out, try running something. Again, I appreciate everyone who came out here today. You did 50% of the work just by showing up. You at least try to do something useful with your time during quarantine, and that's pretty cool because you might be able to learn some pretty cool, nifty skills during quarantine that you can use afterwards. So that concludes our lecture today for the most part. If there's any questions, please ask now. But other than that, that's pretty much it. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate that. Again, my name is Rishi. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions or anything else. Thanks.